flying.
Keep it flying. And why do you want to keep it flying?
Why would anybody want to erase our heritage?
Well, some people would say that flag symbolizes racism. It symbolizes slavery, and they might have some valid points there.
That's their opinion. They're welcome to their opinion if they want it.
Are you pro-slavery or against slavery?
I have no comment, but thank you for the interview.
I'll give you one more chance. Pro or anti-slavery?
No comment.
I'll give you one more opportunity to say if you're pro or anti-slavery.
No comment.
All right. Well, there you have it. No comment on the if you're in favor of slavery or not.
Just keep it flying.
Keep it flying. Welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known, and they do let their thoughts, their innermost thoughts, their desires, they let them be known, don't they? And Power 96 starts right in this morning, and he says, remind everyone that polls don't vote. He says the myth about Black people voting for Trump is getting out of hand again. He saw on MSNBC, Morning Joe, some clown saying it is true, and Power 96 says it is absolutely not true. People, it's that time. It is that time. We've sounded the alarm long enough, and so here we are, just months away. This morning we're going to talk about an ex-FBI and CIA officer is on video telling a journalist how corrupt law enforcement is and how the FBI agents were as much a part of the January 6th insurrection as anyone else. And he also bragged that we could put anyone in jail if we want. Also, a Black Florida man. This case is so interesting. If you haven't heard about it, Black Florida man who was charged and convicted of DUI after a viral video surfaced a week ago showing officers set him up. It's on video, yet he was still found guilty yesterday. And talk about that this morning. And Hank Aaron, on a positive side, Hammering Hank, the late great home run champion, Hank Aaron, is being honored with a statue at the Baseball Hall of Fame and a U.S. postal stamp. We will talk about baseball this morning. And Jonathan Majors, we didn't talk about this yesterday, but he avoided jail in a domestic violence conviction. He is going to be doing a little bit of community service and some probation, but he avoided jail time. And I guess the only reason to talk about Jonathan Majors is making good, right? And Terrence Howard. So you remember his co-star on Empire, Taraji P. Henson. Everyone talked about her math ain't mathin' when it comes to equal pay in Hollywood. Well, Terrence Howard is going after his agency, the powerful CAA. He says that they owe him $120 million from Empire. Interesting stuff from Terrence Howard. And Terrence, he always lets it. Speaking of letting it fly, Terrence always lets it fly. He is outspoken when he's behind a microphone or a microphone is in his face. So we'll talk about that this morning. And yes, keep it flying. April 9th, 1865. Robert E. Lee surrendered. He says, the Power 96 says, get over it. His ancestors. So we're going after the ancestors this morning. Hey, that's where it began, right? Power 96. It began with their ancestors, and they passed down a legacy of hate. They passed down a legacy of we want them in chains, something that we know that the MAGA crew definitely is aiming for. But first, this morning, an official with the CIA and a former FBI agent told a journalist that members of the FBI were in attendance at the protest at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. And also, he highlighted methods that intelligence agencies use to disempower political opponents. I think we might have the audio there. Let's take a listen.
Quick little, just to see what happens. Sometimes you light the fuse and just wait for it to follow. Nothing like putting up a fake social media thing to like really get people mad.
Alex Jones.
Yeah, so we were after him.
You are?
We did what we wanted.
Which was what?
Took his money away. Chopped his legs off.
Gavin O'Blennis is a contracting officer at the CIA. O'Blennis worked for the FBI in 2021 and 2022 in the San Diego office, moved on to Homeland Security where he conducted asylum interviews at the southern border, and now works for the CIA managing multi-million-dollar contracts across government agencies and private sector vendors.
I work for, how do I put this without, I'm not supposed to tell people kind of job. If I say intelligence, what do you think?
CIA?
Yep,
You work for the CIA?
I do.
That's
I'm a
incredible.
contracting officer.
That's amazing.
So I deal a lot with like different agencies. We're contracting with like Director of National Intelligence to do stuff. We do Navy, Army, any of them really. I just FBI. I used to work for the FBI, so they threw the FBI at me. They're like, "Here, you used to work there." Oh, I'm permanent. So, yeah.
Good. Well, why do they call it contracting?
Because I do the contracting for them. I do all the legal contracts. I fly out to vendors and evaluate them. I love the agency.
Good for you.
I like the Bureau too. The Bureau was a lot of fun. I got to do a lot of cool stuff with the Bureau. I was the guy in the back of the truck in the van.
So he goes on to talk about how they were at the January 6th. There were agents there. And you recall that FBI Director Christopher Wray had previously stated in a congressional hearing concerning January 6th that he was, quote, not sure there were undercover agents on scene. He couldn't say. Well, this guy says without question that they were, this O'Blennis guy. And he talked about, among other things, how they pick and choose. They can arrest who they pick and choose. They have done it. And when the journalist asked him about, well, what about evidence? He says, oh, we can make anything stick. This is where, again, this is where we are at. He says you can kind of put anyone in jail if you know what to do. You set them up. Those are his exact words. He says you create the situation where they have no choice but to act on their impulse. And once they act on that impulse, some would call that entrapment. And when asked, does the Bureau practice, Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, practice entrapment a lot? He says his response was, we get really close. We get as close as we can. He went into greater detail on the methods that the CIA and FBI uses on members of the American public. He says, quote, you put a post out there or you have some fake profile say something that triggers that we know is going to trigger them. He says, like, we already know your history. If we're at that point, we already know everything about you. So we're like, oh, this will tick him off. Sometimes you just light the fuse and wait for it. He says, nothing like putting out a fake social media thing to like really get people mad. He highlighted, of course, you may have heard in that clip, Alex Jones as one target of the intelligence community. He says we were after him hardcore. And when asked, were you still after him? O'Blennis goes on to say no, because he's broke. He got found guilty and had to pay like $100 million. And then when asked, was that the goal to bankrupt Alex Jones? He says, pretty much. He says they wanted to cut his legs off. Now, nobody has a problem with them going after Alex Jones. It's just the tactics in general that they they use. For instance, he says that they'll tell people on certain things. It's how they nudge people into making certain decisions. He says, we just say that there's no federal statute being broken, but you have the option for a civil case. And it's a pretty good case in our opinion. So they go on. And as far as Alex Jones was concerned, he says we go on to chop his legs off, took his money away, shut him up for a while. Austin is watching. He says racists have always had a presence in the FBI and always will. And the bottom line really is that once again, it's something here at the Black Press we feel like we have to bring to the attention of the public, particularly those in the Black and brown minority communities. You got because you have to be informed. You know, to be informed is like being forewarned, which means that you're forearmed. And there's so much going on in this country. This country is really taking leaps and bounds of steps back to Jim Crow, and they're making it known constantly. Good morning, classmate. Mo is watching this morning, the one and only. Appreciate you, Mo. But we have to bring this to you, and so we have driving while black. We got everything while black, right? And our Latino brothers and sisters, they feel the same heat. They feel the same heat. And then when you see this level of corruption, and you understand that, and going back, I want to, you understand that it really affects us, as we always use that word, disproportionately. I told you I have never used that word as much since coming on to the Black Press, because it's so true. You look at things in a very different lens. You understand things from a very different lens. But I go back to Jennifer Lawrence, Jennifer Lewis. Certainly, Jennifer Lawrence would not say what Jennifer Lewis said. So at least I doubt she would. And who would listen? Not us. But Jennifer Lewis talked about the Sandy Hook thing when she realized that they were never going to do anything about gun control with Sandy Hook. And as she put it, and you know how she put it, if you watched the show yesterday, she used as who was it? Mike V said Barrington language. she 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 said when they shot up those, as she put it, white babies, and they did nothing, that told you everything you needed to know. Certainly, and I'm now, this is me talking. They don't care about they don't care about us who look like this. So this guy's talking about Alex Jones. Imagine how many African Americans and Latinos have fallen victim to that. And speaking of falling victim to law enforcement, this case has really got me. Now, last week, viral video of this black man being pulled over in Tallahassee, Florida, by the police, Calvin Ridley Sr. He's 56 years old. And the officer, watch what happens. Listen, watch what happens.
Quick question for you. So I smell marijuana in your vehicle. Did you recently smell?
Once he's arrested for driving with a suspended license, they can search his car. Officer Oliver leaves the car, does a 360, and then goes back in the car, retrieving a sealed liquor bottle and pours it out. That was the sound of the seal on the liquor bottle breaking. Here's another angle. While Officer Muth questions Riley about marijuana again.
Did somebody else smoke in your car earlier?
Oliver tosses the empty bottle into the passenger seat. They don't find any marijuana in the car. Here's Officer Oliver implying to Officer Muth that the empty bottle was likely what was in a cup in Riley's center console.
Cover where like the knee would sit, there's an opening, and he had it like tucked. Okay. And then the whatever he had in his cup also stuck.
Then Officer Muth tells a senior officer that they found open alcohol in the car, in both a bottle and a cup.
Yeah. Okay, nothing in there? Well, okay, so he had a bunch of alcohol stashed in there, but
Nothing open or anything.
yeah, open.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, in his like Tervis in the center console, he had a mixed drink, and then under his knee, he had a like little bottle of vodka tucked away.
When officers group to discuss the case, they all ask each other if their body cameras are off.
Still on. Any evidence of that?
Marijuana.
Yeah.
Are you still on? Mm-hmm.
The video ends at this point. Riley's arrest report states, quote, "A search of Riley's vehicle yielded a small bottle of vodka that was opened in a pocket in the driver's seat cover." Riley's case begins on Friday, April 5th, in the Leon County Courthouse in Tallahassee.
So,
Good evening. I'm Shamaria Morris.
you saw that. You all saw that. And so here's the deal. He had a suspended driver's license, to be sure. But in Florida, what they needed was another crime, if you will, for them to arrest him. They could have just sent him on his way with the suspended license. Somebody could have come and picked him up or whatever. But this officer wanted to arrest him. And as you saw, she opened the container, a sealed container. And the thing with that is, and I'm not sure about Florida, but certainly in New Jersey and in Delaware and some other places, they don't give you bags anymore. And so you pay, and I always tell my family, make sure and get your receipts. As I'm not walking out of here without a bag and without a receipt. I don't care if it's just a pack of bubble gum, get a receipt. So I'm not sure if that's the case in Florida, but he had a sealed bottle, a small sealed bottle of what was identified as vodka. Hadn't opened it. She opened, the cop opened it and lied that it was open in a cup. They did the whole smell marijuana type thing to try to do the search, which they didn't need to in this case. Unfortunately, if your license is suspended in Florida, they can search your vehicle. They don't need your permission. But she did the whole because she didn't know the law and her that she's paid to uphold. Then she admitted later in a pretrial hearing that she opened the bottle herself and poured the alcohol out. She cited what she believed to be police department policy that prevented officers from impounding liquids as evidence. There is no such policy in Florida. So the lies, okay, Danielle Yella Pierre says that the bags are still available in Florida. The lies, you would think that a jury would say, wait a minute. All this line. I'm surprised. I was surprised that it even went to, it continued to trial after the release of the video with the conspiracy, the conspiring of lying. And obviously she lied. She opened that container. He didn't open it. And here's the other point. As Mike V says, turn off the body cam prematurely is also tampering with evidence.
The bottle opened by Oliver was part of the basis of the DUI charge.
I did not see where she got the bottle from.
But you automatically assumed that that's what was in the Tervis mug.
Yes.
The state refuting this premise and trying to establish the DUI arrest was made because of other indicators.
Can you tell the jury why you believed you had probable cause to arrest him for DUI at that point? Based on the totality of the circumstances, Officer Oliver had observed poor driving patterns, and then my own personal observations with the thick, slurred speech, watery, bloodshot eyes. He had said he was leaving a bar and said that he had consumed a couple of 2 beers there.
The defense also attempting to call into question Officer Muth's testimony, asking her if she's sure Riley was under arrest for a DUI before or after the vodka bottle came into play, and if the vodka bottle was used as evidence for the DUI.
That's your testimony here today, that you did not use the vodka bottle as evidence. Correct.
The defense then brought up Muth's prior deposition.
Question. And in that report, you mentioned that a vodka bottle was found in a pouch on the driver's seat. Is that correct? Answer. Correct. Question. And you mentioned that because it was evidence. Answer. Yes. That's inconsistent with your testimony today.
The state making sure the jury was left with this.
Can you tell the jury why you believed you had probable cause to arrest him for DUI at that point? Based on the totality of the circumstances, Officer Oliver had observed poor driving patterns, and then my own personal observations with the thick, slurred speech, watery, bloodshot eyes.
Obviously, so this is a partner, obviously lying to protect the partner. This man did say that earlier that day he had a couple of beers. He didn't say he was just leaving the bar. But again, folks, you have a right to remain silent. Exercise it. Exercise it. They had no probable cause. They took this man's livelihood because he lost his job as a result. He lost his car as a result. And once they impounded the car, he couldn't get it back. And he said that following that, it was repossessed because he had no job. He couldn't pay for it anymore. But that is the goal here. That is the goal of much of law enforcement today when it comes to Black and brown people. That's the goal. And she lied. And they taught, and jurors buy what officers say all the time. And part of the reason jurors buy, if you've never been to a trial and witnessed a trial, particularly a criminal trial, juror instructions from a judge almost always says that you can put more weight into an officer's testimony than anyone else. So they boost them up as being infallible, when constantly we see the opposite. We see corruption. We see cruelty. We see officers breaking the law all the time. And this man, a jury actually found him guilty. It took them less than 2 hours. Maurice Drinks, Mo says, not very different from the pig laws during the convict lease system. Yep. They deliver in less than 2 hours. He was sentenced to spend 10 days in jail. He was also sentenced to 6 months of probation. And as part of his sentence, Mr. Riley must also attend a DUI course, perform 50 hours of community service, participate in random breathalyzer tests, and his driver's license will be suspended for 6 months. So now, again, this is where they want you, in their hands, because now they have the right to just walk up on him, whether he's at home, whether he's walking down the street, whether he's at work, to say, hey, I need you to take a breathalyzer test. And he can't say no. It's court ordered. This stuff is it's happening, folks. It's happening, and don't be one to say it can't happen to me, and don't be one also to say, well, it hasn't happened to me or any of my loved ones, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Cut it out. Yes, Mike V is a great point. We reported on that 2022 Supreme Court decision in Florida where officers now do not have to read Miranda rights to citizens. Um, yeah, they did. They ruined his life just for kicks. And Austin says, how many times have these officers done this since this trial or before this particular pullover? And now they are more empowered to continue to do it. I mean, judges are just, there are corrupt judges. There are hateful judges as well. I've been to trials and seen it with my own eyes. I've covered these trials and seen it with my own eyes. But these are warnings, these are shots across the bow or bow, whatever you want to call it, for what's to come. This is America. And no, all this, let's fix this, let's fix that. No one is fixing this. That was a hot moment there in 2020 after they murdered George Floyd. Where everybody, this got to stop. This is protest, global protest. Finally, Black people were being heard. Only for a moment, though. Because now you see, after that, all this talk about police reform, remember that cry, defund the police? Well, the funding for law enforcement in just about every community has gone up tremendously. Look at what a Black mayor, I don't care what, listen, Denise Rolock Barnes and I will be at odds at this forever. But a Black mayor in DC, a Black woman mayor at that, has now bought into this idea that and we know crime is rampant in DC. We know that. But what she's done is exactly what Tim Scott would have done, exactly what Clarence Thomas would do, exactly what Donald Trump wants to do. I mean, she shattered. We can't give, particularly those who look like us, who go against the very fiber of us, can't give them passes. And Denise says that Mayor Bowser has tried everything. And so and she's tried everything. She's been mayor 10 years. She's tried everything. Well, that means that it's time for her to go, right? Let somebody else try something. This mayor, in her new initiatives, has now said that she's taken away powers of prosecutors to cut deals with defendants. We yell and scream about Joe Biden and the crime bill. We yell and scream about mandatory minimums. That's exactly what she is doing here in DC. She's employing mandatory prison, particularly targeting Black and brown individuals, young ones at that. She has decided if you miss a certain amount of school, suspension, expulsion, and jail is where you're going. I don't care what angle you're looking for this, what angle you're looking from. It's wrong. It is absolutely wrong. That not only should that be, there was an argument, it should be the last resort. It should be no resort. Given what we have seen happen. And I get it. some of the students, some of the kids in DC, black kids, are wilding out. I get it. But you got to figure something out. Yep, Maurice Mo says, unfortunately, far too many people never see a need for change until they or their loved ones are victimized. Yeah, and as Greer said, Mayor Bowser stays throwing us under the bus. You just can't. It's no justification, And again, it's hard to win an argument with Denise because she's extremely intelligent and talented, but there is nothing anyone can tell me to say that this is the right thing to do. That this is the right thing to do. Yes, and Bowser is, as Greer points out, a child of the city. She knows the odds. She knows what black and brown kids have been up against. And yet, this is and we, she's not a reflection of most black women. So let me say that. She's not a reflection of most black women. Because black women by nature are the most parental you'll ever find. The mama bear, go near the cubs and find out what the mama bear will do, much more so than daddy bear. That's a black woman. That's what she does at all costs, at all expense, at all consequences, will go out of her way to protect her babies. And Muriel Bowser is, to me, yeah, and I know Sam P.K. Collins covers that like a blanket, and he may see things a little different, but there is no excuse for this. No excuse to strip DC and the kids of all these programs. Marion Barry would be embarrassed. Yeah, and as I say that, Greer says she's undone so many things in this city that Mayor Barry put in place to keep black folks strong in the city. It's a disgrace. So we see all of that. It's like, are you blind to what's been going on around the country? Are you attempting now to turn DC red? It's already turned white with all the gentrification. It used to be called Chocolate City. And she's not the only one. But I mentioned her because I just wrote something about that and what she was doing. But she it's extremely, extremely disgraceful, no matter how you slice it. Got a black police commissioner there in DC, a black woman running the police department. Was it Pamela Smith? It's a predominantly black force. And this is what they're doing. Scared Negroes. Yeah, I can't disagree with that observation. She's been mayor 10 years. 10 years. And you want to, you want to talk about stealing elections. The AG stole it from Vince Gray when he ran against Bowser the first time. Let's be real. Mike V says DC sounds black and white with red all over. And yeah, more whites have joined the force in DC. They see what's going on. It's going in their favor. It's pathetic. It flies in the face of their vaunted mayor for life, Mr. Barry. It flies in the face of everything he stood for. And you can say what you want about his personal demons. The man loved DC. He loved the youth of DC. He instituted the Marion Barry Summer Youth Program that many people, including those who went on to become celebrities, took advantage of and credit with their success. So come on. What she's done is a disgrace. And as I said, she's not the only one, but I'm specifically targeting her this morning because when you see cases like Mr. Riley here, and then you're going to try and say, well, we need tougher, we need to put more of these type of cops on the street. We need to enforce these type of this type of behavior. Yeah, sell it somewhere else. See, when it doesn't affect you, it doesn't matter. And right now, none of this stuff affects Muriel Bowser. She goes into her home, sleeps well, has her little friends over, and there was one quote that came out of the mayor's office last week that really triggered me when um, and when they asked someone asked about this idea of taking the power and the ability to from prosecutors to do plea arrangement with specifically young suspects, black and brown. They came out, and I can't remember the exact quote, but it went something like, "That's just too bad. They have to do the time." Daniela Pierre mentions that DC is also home to the National Association of Realtors, an organization that did not permit black people to join until 1961. Yeah. Yeah. It's a, she's the reason. She's the reason. You talking about crime being out of control in DC. Denise talks about it all the time. And we know crime is crazy in DC. But look in the mirror. Maybe it's because of your policies, Mirror Bowser, because it wasn't like this. I shudder to think that it was like this 10 years ago. I don't remember it being like this 10 years ago when she took office. I don't remember it being like this 4 years ago. But Mayor Bowser has joined, in my view, the Tim Scotts of the what's next for Mayor Bauer? To ban black books? To ban DEI? What's next? People say, "Oh, you guys are soft on black folks because you're the black." No, we're not. It comes a time and a place. But when you see this with law enforcement getting all the resources again and getting all the leeway and being giving um, essentially a pass to be corrupt, as if they needed more of a path to be corrupt. It's really unnerving. And then it becomes even more unsettling when the people doing it, when some who are doing it, I should say, some who are in charge happen to be black. Yes, Mike V. At the height of the Floyd protest, she did order the gigantic Black Lives Matter mural painted in D.C. Most of the time when I go to DC, I'm in DC, I stay there at the Hay Adams, which is right there, Black Lives Matter way. But to me, it only stands to reason that this is somebody who did that. You know why? Because corporate America and all the mayors and governors and everyone else, except for, of course, your boy in Florida and your boy in Texas, but they all joined that bandwagon after Floyd was murdered. And then right away, soon as that left the news cycle, they left those positions of we got to do something about it. She's a disgrace. 50 years ago, the sports world watched in awe as Hank Aaron shattered baseball's most hallowed record, cementing his place as one of the game's greatest legends. And Mark Make It Plain Thompson says he is the greatest to ever play the game. And to celebrate the anniversary of that historic moment, the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum will immortalize Hank Aaron's legacy with a monumental tribute in conjunction with the opening events for the new exhibit, More Than Brave, The Life of Henry Aaron, at the Atlanta History Center. Hall of Fame chairman of the board, James Forbes, announced plans to unveil a bronze statue of Hank Aaron at the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. And there was number 715. Goodness grief, that was just an amazing thing. And what made that such an accomplishment, of course, Babe Ruth had 714, and the run up to him breaking this record, the death threats, the racist attacks on him were just tremendous. And yet he was able to kill the noise, as it were. And that was Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, rocked like it never did before and has never since. And the U.S. Postal Service is going to honor him with a commemorative stamp. He is a 23-time All-Star, and he still holds the record for most career RBIs and total bases. And just how good was Aaron? Well, even if you took away all his 755 career home runs, he would still have more than 3,000 hits. Amazing. Hank Aaron died in 2021, but he established a record with 2,297 RBIs, 1,477 extra base hits, and an amazing 6,856 total bases. They had a huge celebration this past Monday in Atlanta at what is now called Truist Park before the game between the Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets, and celebrating Hank Aaron. What a, again, so they talk about all of these great players, and they always want to put an overweight, out of shape Babe Ruth as the best, and he was not. He was not. Now, my belief is that Willie Mays was the greatest. Now, I had that discussion with Make It Plain, and he said Hank Aaron was the greatest. And then there's an argument. I don't care what you think of him. Certainly the greatest player I've seen in my lifetime, at least in his prime, because when Willie Mays was retiring, I was only like 5 years old. And Hank Aaron, same thing. I was like 5, 6 years old when Hank Aaron left the sport. So in my lifetime, hands down, by far, the greatest was Barry Bonds. I've never seen a baseball player quite like Barry Bonds. His prime. I remember his rookie year. I remember him being at Shea Stadium. I'll never forget June 1987. The Pirates came into town, and Dwight Gooden, coming off a suspension, faced Barry Bonds, his first hitter since suspension. And Barry Bonds was a rookie. Struck Barry out. And Barry Bonds struck out the fewest times of any player classified as a slugger in the history of the game. Barry Bonds' bat to ball, eye contact steroids do not help that if you believe he took steroids. His eye contact and that ball folks, they say the toughest thing in sports is to hit a baseball. And Barry Bonds rarely swung and missed. Rarely swung and missed. There were a few others who ran, like Tony Gwynn, did probably. If you saw him swing and miss one day, it would be a year before you saw Tony Gwynn swing and miss again. And yes, Power 96, this is my point. That clown from the Dodgers is nowhere near as great. His betting scandal is way worse than Pete Rose. And you notice Power 96, no one's talking about, all of a sudden, Shohei Ohtani's gambling scandal is not even talked about, not even mentioned. As I said, let Barry or Ken Griffey Jr., who I believe was the second greatest player, who I know was the second greatest player I've ever seen in his prime, let it have been one of them. Let it have been one of them. It would be talked about so much that baseball commissioner would feel like he had to act. So the stamp of Hank Aaron is the debut next month. 755 home runs. Wow. Unreal. Hank Aaron. And Angela Connolly says, don't forget about Brett Favre's fraud case. Yeah, no one's talking about it except Dawn Montgomery. She tweets about it all the time. She won't let up, and good for her. But, sports writers everywhere should not be letting up on that. Yes, I certainly agree. Power 96, Ken Griffey Jr. swing is perhaps the greatest swing in baseball, in the history of baseball. I mean, and what a swing. It's like music watching him. It's like listening to music, watching his swing. Darryl Strawberry was like that too, but Ken Griffey's was a lot more compact and as you said, just great. It was just music. Oh boy, I tell you what. And by the way, Power 96, Knicks won last night, third in the conference, despite all the injuries. I will be at the Garden for the first round of the playoffs for both the Knicks and the Rangers. So relax down there in Louisiana, okay? We didn't talk about Jonathan Majors, and I got text, emails, and tweeted at by Lauren Burke. Y'all know Lauren. But he was sentenced to 1 year of domestic violence counseling after being convicted of assaulting and harassing his ex-girlfriend, Grace Jabari. He must complete a 52-week in-person domestic violence program in Los Angeles, where he currently lives. There will be an opportunity in the future for the sessions to be partly virtual, the judge said. But he must continue the mental health therapy he has been enrolled in and provide updates on his progress. The judge also placed a permanent order of protection against any contact between Jabari and Majors. Any violations or criminal activity could result in him facing time in jail. Judge Michael Gaffin delivered that sentence in Lower Manhattan. And so he Jonathan Majors, remember, he was found guilty of 2 misdemeanor counts of harassment and assault against Jabari. He had a 2-week trial, and this is where things stand with him. And listen, she's off the chain too. She we've seen some things in that trial, not in that necessarily in the trial, but in her videos of her chasing after him, and I believe she also had some sort of physical altercation with someone too. She's whacked out as well. The one person that you gotta, you gotta wonder about in this whole situation is Megan Good. How do you step into, and it's like none of my business. I know Megan, but it's not. How do you step into a situation? Now, again, the guy could. There was certainly some physical altercations going on both sides. Jabari hitting him, he hitting Jabari. But in the middle of this, you walk in and decide to be his ride or die. um, I listen. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And it's, again, it's nothing against him. I don't know the man. I don't, I don't know a whole lot about Jonathan Majors except that he's a Marvel. He was a Marvel actor, Marvel Comics actor. But any situation, actor, non-actor, it's tough to understand. He's about to, at the time of the commencement of their relationship, he's about to go on trial for domestic abuse. And you at least, and you cozy up with him. You of Megan Good, who I'm sure I mean, if you want to keep it Hollywood, Megan, I mean, there's probably 12,000 men lined up. But none of my business, right? um Power 96 says, I'm calling OJ. He know how to cut through the mayonnaise. Yeah, well. Quinn says, it seems like the modern day King Kong movie, the King of the Jungle taken down in New York. I don't get that reference. Wow, y'all be acting up, Mr. Durrett. Austin says, I would be deeply honored to attend the Knicks game with you at the Garden. Thanks in advance for your esteemed time, attention, and consideration. Amen. Wow. You see, after him and Greer ganged up on me yesterday. Did y'all see that? Was we on the air when they ganged up on me yesterday? I think we were. They teamed up and just didn't care about my feelings at all. Like Power 96 calling the Knicks comic relief. You guys don't care anything about how I might feel about things. I just don't understand. I really don't. I really, really don't. So Jonathan Majors, he is he's gonna be in counseling for a year and some other things he must do. And speaking of, speaking of acting, one of the best actors, in my view, has always been Terrence Howard. And Terrence Howard is refusing to be quiet about the money he says that Creative Artists Agency, or CAA, owes him for alleged conflict of interest while negotiating his salary on Empire, which he says was lower than what, quote, white counterparts in television were paid at the time. He sat down for a recent interview with the Straight Talk YouTube channel and discussed his lawsuit against CAA. Let's take a listen.
That's a lot of money. That should have been.
Well, let's go to another one.
I'm just saying.
CAA, Creative Artists Agency, they represented me.
Mm-hmm.
They also represented some of the people from Big Bang Theory.
Mm-hmm.
They also did the deal with Fox.
Mm-hmm.
My show was with Fox. The people from Big Bang was with Fox.
Mm-hmm.
We had 28 million viewers. They had 11 million viewers.
Wow.
They were getting $2 million damn near $3 million an episode. Those white kids that had no name recognition, no Oscar nominations, none of that. We have 28 million viewers, and these jokers are paying me $325,000 an episode. And I'm like, every year I'm asking my agents what's going on. I didn't know that the packaging deal, my agents were incentivized to keep my pay low. So they'll go to Fox and say no, and they'll say no themselves because they were producers. They owe me over $120 million based on what would have been paid to white counterparts.
Yeah.
So now I'm in the process of suing them about it. And when I asked them about my money, they sent me a check for $666.
Wait.
$666 to say.
Wait.
$666 exactly.
What?
Not saying where it's from. So I was like, oh, y'all trying to threaten me.
This is a marketing piece.
This is a threat. This is a threat
right
here. And y'all think I'm scared? You think I'm gonna be quiet about this? Because I wonder what you're doing to every other black artist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's
how do you negotiate $2 million for a white cat and negotiate $325,000 for a black cat that has 3 times what the white cat is getting? They were getting $750,000 for a 30-second spot for advertisement. That's what you get for bigger sometimes than the Super Bowl. And they were getting that every week from us, but they were incentivized, and that's why packaging deals were illegal. But now I'm waiting to go to court now to deal with CAA concerning that stuff. And they're like, oh, don't you want to work in a business? No, I want my money so I don't have to work. That's the whole point of working. I wanted to retire so I can do what I got to do.
Oh my God. This is important to know.
Going on,
yeah, because I know you've heard.
I had to get back on the stroll.
That.
Wait, it's like, you catch that last line. He said, I had to get back on the stroll. Terrence Howard is crazy. It's all outdoors. Mike V says, sounds like he was better off with a stimulus check or a PPP loan. And Andrew Conley says, it's the hair for me. And of course, Power 96 coming. He said he is speaking truth to power, and that 1970 wig is real pimping. I wonder what the hair is. He doing a movie or something? The hair. The stroll, right? That's what got me more. The hair was getting me until he said he got to get back on the stroll, David Youngblood. But again, let me say this. Okay, that was the costume for the talk. Greer says the hair is the point. Okay, gotcha. But let me say this. I always say 325,000 an episode is nothing to cough at. Getting back on the show. Right. Yep. It's hard on them corners, David says. But that's what the hair was about, is what Greer is saying. Right. So I get it. But 325,000 an episode is nothing to sneeze about. No, it's not. However, as he pointed out, the Big Bang, they're getting 2-3 million an episode, and he made some great points. 11 million viewers for the Big Bang, 28 million for Empire. And then he mentioned, so the viewership, number one, you're pulling in that many viewers, then the pay should be proportionate. But then he mentioned what the commercials were costing on Empire. So they're paying that much. Again, only further validates his point that this man, and I remember how, I didn't watch Empire. He says, "What the heck is the Big Bang Theory show?" Years ago, and it's been on for years. I think it's finally ending this year or ended last year, something like that. But years ago, someone said, a couple of friends of ours said, "Oh, you got to check out the Big Bang Theory." Yeah, listen, I'm not criticizing nobody's choice of entertainment. I just didn't get the Big Bang Theory. I couldn't watch. I just couldn't. One episode, I couldn't make it through. I also same thing with that Scranton TV show, The Office. My kids like that, but I just couldn't. Um, but the Empire was such a huge, huge show. I mean, it was one of those things that they would it, it would have like news reports on it, like the next episode. Oh my God, they would report on it like it was facts, like this was like actually happening. Um, that's how big Empire was. It was in a lot of ways it was like The Wire, as far as popularity. Only thing with The Wire is people started to appreciate it a little bit later. But the Empire, and so I guess another part of his point was the collusion that was going on with his agent, with his agency, and Fox, which is another obstacle in Hollywood particularly for actors and actresses of color. And so it goes back to y'all didn't listen to Monique years ago, and Steve Harvey, of course, his his straight dancing jigs and doing the hucklebuck or whatever for white folks. Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey. What they did, it just further underscores how bad what they did to Monique what really was. And so, as Malcolm X famously said, the chickens have come home to roost. They tried to paint Monique as crazy, unstable, hard to work with. They tried to paint her as difficult. And as we know that in that case it was black folks behind that. Three very powerful black folks: Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, Steve Harvey. And she brought this out. And that's why when Taraji came out last year that the math ain't mathin', it was like, okay, we get it. We get it. But didn't Monique tell you that? And none of y'all stood up for her. None of y'all stood up for her. And I'm a big fan of Terrence Howard. But I didn't hear his voice. But now it's happening. It has happened to you. It has happened to you. And so it's a problem now. See, all this could have been avoided if they would have all stuck together when it came to the Monique situation. If they would have all backed her and not blackball her, blacklist her. See, you got enough obstacles, and you got enough of the other people doing the blacklisting and the blackballing. Power 96 says, don't forget Charlamagne. He forgave Monique. He gave Monique the donkey of the day. He is a bowl of confusion. Yeah, and he said, didn't he say he apologized? He recently apologized for that. But again, he went along with it. They all went along with it. And so now we see it happen to Taraji. We see the situation now with Terrence Howard, and those were so. This is what Monique was saying at the time. Precious was the Academy Award, biggest movie out there. Empire, by far the biggest thing on television. What was going on behind the scenes? What the checks look like? And Big Bang. You got people saying they don't even know what the heck Big Bang is. But everybody knows what Empire. Everybody know Mr. Lucius. Okay, so Greer has something here. Indiana State University released a super weak response in regards to one of their students, Asa Blanton, who decided to unleash her white supremacist views about Beyonce and ultimately Black people as a whole. To make matters worse, this clown is an actual nursing student at the school. Let's check it out. She says, okay, let's play it first and let's ask the question. Well, we seem to have lost that, but that's okay. We'll come back to it. We'll certainly tackle it because she says that her question is, why do white people think that this is their country? They literally stole this country from Native Americans, and there's no lie there. And Power 96 mentions, just like in sports, Caitlin Clark is way more financially better off than the winning team players. Yeah, everyone's throwing all of this at Caitlin. I guarantee you, mark my words. Mark my words. Monday is the WNBA draft. We know the WNBA salary structure. Mark my words. They're going to give this young lady more. They're going to go above that structure somehow. Watch.
But if you're Black, you're not country. I know you were raised in the country, or your grandparents were, I guess, your great granny and grandpas, but they was picking, okay? They wasn't planting. Just keep that in mind. They wasn't making money. They was getting sold for money. You ain't country.
Mm.
I'm sorry, but if you're Black, you're not country. I know you were raised in the country, or your grandparents were, I guess, your great granny and grandpas, but they was picking, okay? They wasn't planting.
Somebody.
Keep that in mind.
I
They
don't
wasn't making money. They was getting sold for money.
the violence.
Yeah.
But somebody needs to take her outside. Somebody needs to take her out behind the shed. I mean, as Greer put it, they stole this country from Native Americans. So why do they think that it is theirs? Because they stole it? I thought there was a punishment for stealing. Her name is Asa Blanton, Indiana State University, nursing student at the school. What will you do, Indiana State University? Now that you got our attention, we're watching. We want to know. We want to know, what are your plans for Asa Blanton? And David says this is the absolutely the mindset across America, and it is in the marrow. Oh yeah, well said. Austin says she is studying to be a nurse. Imagine her treating a pregnant Black woman. Yeah. Right. She can't be a nurse. Right. And yeah, I can see her hired by Fox News. Yep. Wow. What a way to leave you this morning, huh? Something to digest. But we're gonna follow up. I promise you that. We're gonna follow up on this thing with Indiana State University. We're gonna find out if there are any consequences for Asa Blanton. And David says that's our future caretaker. Yeah, how about that? Well, again, loads of information, things to think about. Do with it what you may. Mike V, I'll give you the last word. He says she is a medical apartheid candidate. Wow. Whew. Well, thanks for joining us as always. We appreciate you, and we will see you again tomorrow.